The dawn light over Venice glimmered pink against the lagoon, gilding the oarlocks of 100 sleek gondolas lined up for the annual Regatta dei Sestieri. Flags snapped from palazzo balconies, and the air smelled of brine, varnish, and espresso. Spectators crowded every stone bridge and cornicione, wagering sotto voce and waving bright handkerchiefs at their favorite rowers. Bianca Rossi ignored the cheers and tightened the knot on the crimson ribbon wrapped around her forcola. Her father used to race with that same ribbon tied to his oarlock, and today she intended to reclaim their family's honor. She straightened, dark curls whipping across her cheek in the morning breeze. A mocking voice drifted across the water. Rossi, maybe you should save your energy for rowing instead of decorating. Marco Lombardi, impossibly tall, infuriatingly handsome, and Venice's most persistent irritant, pulled up alongside her silver-black gondola. He dipped his oar in a cocky half-stroke that sent a curl of wake slapping against Bianca's hull. Marco's boat, painted a deep emerald that scandalized traditionalists, boasted an elegant prow carved in the shape of a sea dragon. I don't need decorations, Lombardi, Bianca shot back. I grew up on this canal. The bends know my name. And yet I'm the one who beat you at last year's regatta, he said, flashing a grin that revealed an annoying dimple. Second place is hardly beating, she huffed, though her stomach twisted at the memory. Marco had overtaken her in the final stretch by half a length, smiling the whole time. She had replayed the race in her dreams for a year, convinced she could have outsmarted him with better timing. From the far dock, a ripple of O's ran through the crowd. Antonio Falcone was arriving, clad in a tailored navy jacket embroidered with gold spirals. His gondola, longer than regulation but mysteriously approved each year, cut a proud silhouette. Behind him floated a smaller skiff, loaded with casks of Chianti, emblazoned with the Falcone crest. The man never arrived without a lavish show. Marco's grin vanished. Speak of the sea serpent, Antonio the Magnifico, Bianca said under her breath. The champion who never met a rule he couldn't bribe. Last year, several competitors had sworn they'd seen Falcone's deckhand hooking underwater ropes onto rival hulls to slow them in crucial straits. The complaints disappeared beneath layers of bureaucracy, rumor, and Falcone's bottomless pocketbook. A trumpet blared, gondoliers pivoted to face the starting line, 3 floating lanterns moored across the canal below the Rialto Bridge. A hush fell as the race marshal, an elderly nun with an iron bell, raised her arm. May the best rower win, and may Venice forgive the rest, she intoned. The bell clanged. 100 oars struck water as one. The regatta shot forward, a gleaming serpent of color and foam. Spectators roared, a living tide that washed along the canal's granite walls. Bianca fell into rhythm, legs flexed, shoulders rolling. Her gondola responded like an extension of her spine. Ahead, Falcone surged into an early lead, his longer hull slicing the water clean. Bianca clocked his form, too relaxed, too confident. He was conserving energy for some dirty trick. Behind Falcone, Marco kept pace, his strokes precise yet explosive. Bianca scowled. If anyone deserved second behind her, it certainly wasn't Lombardi. They reached the first bend near Campo San Polo. Crowding tightened as the canal narrowed, forcing competitors into single file. Bianca sensed rather than saw movement under the water. A taut line jerked from Falcone's support skiff toward the stone bank. Seconds later, the gondola beside Bianca lurched sideways, its oar tangled in something unseen. The rower cursed as he collided with a neighbor, both boats spinning out of contention. Falcone's deckhand yanked the line back in, grinning like a cat. Bianca's pulse thundered. He's starting already, she muttered. Again, Marco's boat drew level with hers, both of them skimming the riprap near a low footbridge. He had seen the sabotage, too. Their eyes met, an unspoken vow sizzling between them. Stop, Falcone. By the halfway marker at Fondamenta delle Zerere, only a dozen crafts remained in the leading pack. Bianca's arms burned, yet adrenaline pushed her deeper into the well of her strength. Falcone was still ahead, easing toward the broad Giudecca Canal. The open expanse favored longer hauls. If Falcone widened the gap here, they'd never catch him before the final dogleg through the narrow Rio di San Sebastiano. Marco angled near Bianca and called over the splash of oars. We need to box him in before the open water. And how do you propose we outrun a 40-foot cheat ship, genius? He grinned, breathless, by combining the two fastest short boats in Venice. She barked a laugh. Unless you've invented a way to meld hulls mid-race, keep rowing. Exactly that, he shot back, eyes alight. With his right hand, he whipped a coil of rope from under his seat and tossed one end to her. You're insane, she said, but her pulse hammered with curiosity. We tie stern to stern, Marco explained. Run the rope taut so our boats form a catamaran. 2 sets of oars, double the stability. We'll glide over his wake like a seabird. It'll never hold. Afraid, Rossi? Her competitive ire flared. Hand me that rope. In 3 heartbeats, they shunted their gondolas alongside each other. Spectators gasped as the 2 rivals drifted inches apart. Oars stilled. Bianca secured the rope to her rear cleat, while Marco lashed the opposite end to his. They pushed apart, taking up the slack until the rope pulled taut, 6 feet of hemp forming a humming ligament between the hulls. Murmurs rippled across the water. Never in the regatta's centuries-long history had anyone attempted such a stunt. On the count of 3, Marco said, 1, 2. Before he reached 3, Falcone's wake rolled back at them, a wall of corrugated water. Instinctively, Bianca and Marco dug their oars. The makeshift catamaran skimmed the crest instead of slicing through, just as Marco predicted. Their paired hulls provided lift, the rope flexing but holding. They whooped in unison, exhilarated. Not awful for a first attempt, Bianca conceded, cheeks flushed. High praise, Marco replied, dimples flashing. They plunged into the broad Giudecca. Falcone glanced back, expecting open water between him and the pack, and nearly dropped his oar when he saw the 2-boat contraption devouring the distance. Wind whipped Bianca's curls across her lips. She tasted salt and the faint scent of Marco's aftershave cedar and citrus. His presence, once a goad, now felt like a matched rhythm echoing inside her ribs. Cooperating required trust. Trust felt surprisingly intoxicating. Marco called adjustment cues. Starboard 2 degrees. Let the outside hull plane on the swell. Bianca mirrored his stroke without conscious thought. In seconds they rode as though choreographed since childhood, their combined power propelling them faster than either had ever traveled in a gondola. They drew a beam of Falcone near the Church of the Redentore. The champion sneered. Cute trick, children, but you'll tangle yourselves before the finish. He nodded to his deckhand, who knelt with a small black pouch. Marco's eyes widened. He's got caltrop steel spikes. Bianca's anger boiled. Ruin someone's hull, steal the win, collect bribes. Falcone's playbook in 3 steps. She met Marco's gaze, the rope between their boats thrumming with shared resolve. Time to dance, she said. As Falcone's deckhand flung a fistful of glinting spikes onto the water, Bianca and Marco veered in perfect tandem. Their catamaran cleared the danger zone, hulls scraping each wave crest rather than plowing. Behind them, the next gondola struck a spike. Wood splintered, water gushed. Spectators booed Falcone, but their shouts were lost amid the chaos. Falcone's face reddened. He stabbed at the water with his oar, trying to ram their makeshift rig. Bianca and Marco accelerated, approaching the mouth of the Rio di San Sebastiano, a narrow, twisting artery through Dorsoduro. The rope worked both miracles and mischief. The extra width gave them speed, but threatened to wedge between stone walls. They would need finesse. Untie? Marco shouted. Bianca shook her head. Not yet. We break apart and he picks us off one by one. She scanned the upcoming bend, mind racing. We slingshot. I was just thinking that. He winked, infuriatingly calm. They counted to 3, then heaved their oars in opposing directions. The rope tightened like a bowstring, and their hulls swung around the bend with centrifugal force. Water sprayed spectators on a mezzanine cafe, who erupted in applause. Bianca's heartbeat matched Marco's cadence. It felt like dancing in a ballroom spun from sunlight and sea. She no longer cared who crossed first. She wanted this moment to stretch past the horizon. The final straight loomed, a corridor flanked by striped mooring poles and thrumming with cheers. Ahead, the Finnish banner fluttered beneath Ponte dell'Accademia. Behind, Falcone bellowed orders, his longer gondola struggling in the narrow confines. Bianca's muscles quivered on the edge of exhaustion. Marco's knuckles whitened on his oar. He met her eyes. A silent promise passed between them, together. They poured every last shred of strength into their strokes. Their boats knifed the water as if driven by a single heart. Falcone made one final lunge, attempting to overtake on the inside. Bianca shifted her weight, tilting her hull so the rope lifted above his prow, denying him room. The maneuver cost precious momentum, but kept him boxed. Barely 20 meters remained. The Finnish buoy bobbed, gilded by sunlight. Within those seconds, the world narrowed to Bianca's burning lungs, Marco's steady breath a handspan away, and the whisper of rope binding rivals into something larger than rivalry. They crossed the line a full length ahead of Falcone. Cannons boomed from a barge. Confetti burst overhead, drifting like powdered rubies onto the canal. Sudden quiet mottled Bianca's senses, a stunned, crystalline hush within, which she realized how fiercely she was smiling. Marco released his oar and stood on his gondola's bow. He loosened the rope knot with shaking fingers, then held the frayed end out to her. "Partners?" he asked softly. Bianca took the rope. "Co-captains," she amended, drawing him closer over the slack water. Spectators roared approval, though whether for the victory or the tableau building between the two young champions no one could say. Bianca barely heard them. She saw only Marco's sea-green eyes, wide with relief, wonder, and something both shy and daring. Falcone barreled up, face mottled purple. "They cheated!" he shrieked at the race marshal, approaching on a small motor launch. "Their boats were tied together. It violates the single-hull rule." The nun adjusted her spectacles. "Rule 13 states each vessel must begin the race independently, Signor Falcone. It does not forbid strategic alliances formed during the event, nor does it condone steel spikes or hidden trip lines." She turned to the dock, where Falcone's deckhand was already being restrained by carabinieri officers retrieving a net of incriminating contraband. "You, sir, are disqualified. Permanently." The crowd erupted, half in schadenfreude, half in jubilation. Falcone deflated, his fortune unable to bribe centuries-old wrath. The marshal faced Bianca and Marco, smile tugging her stern mouth. "Congratulations, winners! Your combined time will stand. I suggest deciding which of you accepts the trophy." Bianca opened her mouth, but Marco lifted his hand. "We'll accept it together, Sorella." He glanced at Bianca, eyes twinkling. "Unless you prefer a rowing duel for custody." She laughed. "I've had enough competition for one day." They piloted their gondolas to the Grand Wharf. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions in Italian, English, Japanese. A silver trophy shaped like a miniature Rialto bridge waited on a velvet cushion. Bianca and Marco approached side by side. She felt his shoulder brush hers, a quiet electricity that chased away the fatigue. They placed their hands simultaneously on the trophy's bronze base and hoisted it overhead. The crowd's cheer shook pigeons from nearby rooftops. During the award banquet in the Sala Ducale, gossip swirled like lamplight in wine glasses. Some hailed the advent of a legendary duo. Others whispered of wedding bells. Bianca ignored them, savoring the walnut-sweet taste of Fratelli and the secret glow inside her chest. Marco found her beside a window overlooking the moonlit canal. The ribbon from her forecola was now tied around his wrist, a makeshift bracelet. "You stole my ribbon," she said, arching her brow. "Borrowed," he corrected. "A reminder of today." Bianca let the velvet night settle. Below, gondolas drifted like black petals on the water. You know, I always thought beating you would be the greatest feeling in the world, she admitted. Turns out, rowing with you was better. He leaned his elbows on the windowsill. Same. His voice dropped to a husky whisper, tucked between violin strains wafting from the main hall. Cooperation steers smoother than competition, no? She turned toward him, her pulse fluttering like the lanterns bobbing outside. Then let's test that theory again. There's a moonlight sprint past San Giorgio in an hour. Thought you'd never ask, he said, grin softening. But I propose we share one boat this time, less rope burn. What if I refuse? She teased. His dimple deepened. Then I'll just have to chase you. I'm quite good at finishing half a length ahead, remember? She laughed, really laughed, the sound echoing across marble floors. Arrogant as ever. But her heart soared. She extended her hand. Fine, partner, lead the way. He threaded his fingers through hers. Their palms fit as naturally as their strokes on the water. Together, they slipped through the banquet doors, leaving politics, cameras, and Falcone's sour scowl behind. Outside, the city hummed a symphony of water against stone, gondola bells, lovers' footsteps on ancient slabs. Marco guided Bianca down a torch-lit pier to where his emerald gondola floated. The rope that had bound their hulls earlier lay in graceful coils on the deck. Marco picked it up. A souvenir, he said. The day rivalry tied into possibility. Bianca traced the rope's frayed end, struck by how slender threads could weave something unbreakable. She met Marco's gaze, feeling the warmth of shared victory, the promise of more uncharted courses ahead. Ready? He asked. Always, she whispered. They stepped aboard the same boat, no longer needing two. Marco pushed off, and the city's embrace widened before them, a labyrinth of canals, each bend rife with secrets, each current eager to carry them somewhere new. Their oars dipped in unison, sending ripples that shimmered beneath the moon. As they vanished into the silvery veins of Venice, Bianca realized that the regatta had never been about crossing a finish line first. It was about learning whom you wanted alongside when the water grew rough, when unfair champions rose, when life bent around sharp corners. Marco chose, partnership, laughter. The hum of rope between boats turned into the soft twining of fingers. Behind them, bells tolled midnight. Ahead, the lagoon stretched open, luminous and wide, waiting for the two of them to chart whatever course they desired together. It's gonna be tomorrow,